Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We thank each of you from the media for the effort that's taken for you to come here. We note that several media representatives from the state of Utah are here, others from Nebraska and Iowa, and from places like England, the BBC, and Germany, and I'm sure I'm leaving others out, but anyway, we welcome all of you to this press briefing. We're honored that you would come, and we're honored to have a group of distinguished guests with us that I'd like to introduce to you. I'll just have them raise their hand and give a little indication who they are. First of all, on my left is Lowell Hardy, the President's personal secretary. We have President and Sister Hinckley, Gordon B. Hinckley, and his wife Marjorie. We have Elder M. Russell Ballard and his wife Barbara. Going further back, we have Elder Hugh Pinnock, who is the area president of this United States central area of this country and of the church as it's so designated. We also have Elder, his wife, Sister Pinnock, is here. Elder Fletcher, who is director of the Visitor Center, and his wife. Elder K.H. Christensen, an Area Authority 70, a new calling in our church, and his wife are with us. We also have Reed Miller, who is the man who worked on this exhibit in this building we're in for 3.5 years. He was joined by Marge Conder and Jenny Lund, exhibit curator and exhibit educator. And Brother Miller is the project designer and a senior project designer with the church's museum and history department. Who have I missed? Yes, Sister Jane Dudley, who is President and Sister Hinckley's daughter, who is traveling with them. My name's Bruce Olson. I'm Managing Director of Public Affairs for the church. We would like to call on Elder M. Russell Ballard, who is a member of the Public Affairs Committee of the church and is one of the 12 apostles, and to introduce President Hinckley.
Good afternoon. We're delighted to be here. If I were to give you all of the accomplishments of President Gordon B. Hinckley, it would take far too much time. Let me simply say he's a man of tremendous accomplishment. The president is the 15th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Prior to being named president of the church, he served for 14 years as a counselor to other church presidents. He was an apostle prior to that for 20 years. His church service has covered the entire world during the time that he has served as an apostle and is in the first presidency and now president of the church. There would be no part of the earth that President Hinckley has not visited and that the people that he would not be acquainted with. He is a great advocate of the public affairs of the church, and for 20 years during the time of his service in the Council of the 12 Apostles, he supervised the public affairs and public communications work of the church. President is a devoted husband to his wife Marjorie, a great example to all of us in the church. He's the father of 5 children, one of which is here with him today. The president has dedicated more of our church temples than any other president, and he sees into the future and has great enthusiasm and great courage as it pertains to what the church ought to be doing in the years ahead. It's an honor to introduce to you the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, President Gordon B. Hinckley.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. When I stand before a group like this, I feel like a pioneer who's facing the Wyoming wolves. And You look a little formidable, but not too bad. Thank you for coming and thank you for being here. We're here to dedicate this visitor center, which is a beautiful structure designed to memorialize those who came here in 1846 and subsequent years, established here on this side of the Missouri River what came to be known as winter quarters, because they stopped here after making the long trek over Iowa to await a new season. It was too late in the season to move on, and so they stopped here, and that meant the building of houses, the building of a city here, really. We have here, as one of the exhibits, a log cabin of the kind they built at that time. They built hundreds of them here and many over on the Iowa side. And they were used not only by that first company, but by subsequent companies who passed this way. This then became the great jumping off place for the very long journey to the Great Salt Lake Valley. What we do today is celebrate, in a sense, the beginning of that journey from here and memorialize those who participated in it. It was a tremendous undertaking. I don't know, when all's said and done, of anything quite like it in the history of the United States. There were many other people, of course, who emigrated to California and Oregon, but they didn't do it in organized companies to the degree that the Mormon people did. Brigham Young, the Mormon leader, organized the people into companies of hundreds, 50s, and 10s, so that there was order in the camp and order in the movement. And it was really a tremendous thing. Somewhere between, 60, 70,000 of them passed this way en route to the west. The trail they made was along the north side of the Platte River, whereas those going to Oregon and California, for the most part, used the trail on the south side. And it's interesting to note that that trail on the north side was subsequently followed by the Union Pacific Railroad and the Transcontinental Highway. As might be expected, they ran into all kinds of problems. Brigham Young said, "We killed rattlesnakes by the cord." They were beset with problems with, in the first place, of driving ox teams. Many of these people in the subsequent companies were converts to the church from England and various parts of Europe. And to take a man who'd come out of the weaving sheds of Lancashire and give him a pair of oxen to drive represented a great challenge in and of itself. They didn't know how to drive an ox team. It was quite a formidable task, but they learned, and they learned very quickly, or they were in very serious trouble. Now, thousands of them died on the way, somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000, perhaps in the neighborhood of 5,000. And many of them died right here. Some 400, 500, 600 of them died here. We don't know exactly. And they're memorialized in the statue done by Everett Fairbanks over in the park across the street. A statue which represents a father and mother laying a child in a grave which they knew they would never again visit. The Mormon Trail is fraught with nobility, courage, faith, loyalty, sacrifice, every virtue I think that one can think of. They were not without problems, but they mastered those problems. They overcame. And they moved to the west, to a place they didn't know very much about, very little. Their knowledge was rudimentary. To me, it's a tremendously significant thing that the valley soil of the Salt Lake Valley had never been broken by a plow. It had never been plowed. No crop had ever been planted there. Jim Bridger tried to discourage them from going there. Sam Brannan argued with Brigham Young to move on to California. But when he looked over that valley, dry as it was, with the Saline Lake in the west, he said, "This is the right place." I marveled at his courage. They didn't know the conditions of the land into which they were moving. They knew nothing of the rainfall. They knew nothing of snowfall. They knew nothing of any of the factors that affect the livability of a place. But they immediately began to plow and plant to save their seed for the next season. It was the 24th of July, and that was very late. That was the beginning, and after that, company after company moved into that area, from which place they spread out, establishing more than 350 communities in other parts of the West. The first settlements of Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Nevada, and even some areas of California were Mormon settlements. It was a tremendous pioneering undertaking, and today we remember them with respect and reverence and very deep gratitude. Now, any questions that you might have? Yes.
I'll ask one. President Hinckley, do you think Brigham Young would recognize the church that's here today?
I don't know. It'd be pure speculation.
I'm asking you to speculate.
I think he'd be highly pleased with what has happened, highly pleased to see what's become of the church. To think that out of those pioneer beginnings, which were rough and difficult, this church has grown now until it's spread over the earth, so to speak. We're approaching the 10 million mark in membership. We're teaching in 150, 160 nations. We're building new buildings at the rate of about 350 a year to accommodate the needs of our people. The church is moving forward on 100 fronts, boldly and openly, and I think successfully. I think Brigham Young would like it. I have a portrait of Brigham Young in my office. No matter where I go in that office, his eyes are on me. And he has kind of a wry smile on his face, and I sort of hear him say, "Do your best, boy. Keep going." Thank you. All right, Peggy?
Do you have any relatives who died here?
Not here, but we've just dedicated the Nauvoo Historic Pioneer Park and the little building there. In that building are entered the names of all who have been found to have died between Nauvoo and the Salt Lake Valley in the pioneer movement before the coming of the railroad. And my grandfather's first wife's name is there. He was a young man who married a girl who was part of the company as they were coming, and his young wife and his brother-in-law, her brother, both died on the same day. He dug a grave, cut some logs, made some coffins, buried them, picked up his infant child, and tearfully moved on to the Salt Lake Valley. That's my personal story. Dwayne?
President, why do you feel it's important to memorialize the pioneers, particularly with a visitor center as beautiful and elaborate as this, and with a trek across the plains?
It's always good to look to the past, to look to your roots, to find out where you come from and what it's all about. It's good to look to the past and gird up and face the future. We think that it's very important that there be preserved in an adequate and proper way a remembrance of those who have gone before and who laid the foundation for most of which we enjoy today. We respect them, we honor them, we pay tribute to them, and go forward. The future's ahead, the past is behind. We're doing our best to remember them and move forward. We're in the same spirit in which they worked and traveled and did what they had to do.
Along that line, is pioneering simply a thing of the past?
Oh no, it's happening every day. We're pioneering every day. It's going on everywhere. We have many areas of the world right today where we have pioneers, those who are out teaching the gospel in new areas. It's a formidable and difficult task, and they do it, and people come into the church, and that isn't a popular thing to do because others don't understand us. They're pioneers in a very real sense. We remember them and salute them. At this last conference, we had a motion picture, as you know, showing us at Nauvoo and here and on the plains of Wyoming and at Ensign Peak, the presidency. Myself and President Monson and President Faust. Now, this coming October, we're preparing a picture for that showing modern pioneers to put a cap on this year in which we honor the pioneers. Yes.
Mr. President, I come from Austria, Vienna.
Australia?
Austria,
Vienna.
Yes.
Yes.
In our country, about 90% of the inhabitants are Catholics. What would you say a person like me is the main reason why he should convert to your church?
Well, let me say this. We honor and respect all churches. We know that all churches do good. They teach, they uplift. They're a great influence for good in the community. We honor and respect them for that good which they have. And we say to people everywhere, bring with you what you have, and let us see if we can add to that. Now that's our attitude, that's our position. And we think we have something we can give you in Austria. Thank you. Yes.
A lot of the people who are going on the trail this year have ancestors who also did it. And for them, the significance of
Right.
this reenactment is pretty apparent. But what about the people who either stayed behind or have only joined the church recently? Why would it be significant for them?
I say this, that whether you come of Mormon pioneer ancestry or whether you were baptized only yesterday, you're all a part of this thing. You're the beneficiary of everything that's gone before in laying the foundation of this work. And so we pay, what we honor today is of interest to all of our people, whether they come from pioneer inheritance or whether they just came into the church yesterday. We all become the beneficiaries of that and all appreciate, I think, in a very genuine way, what's happened before. Yes.
How many times have you crossed the trail yourself?
Me walking in a wagon?
No driving and so forth.
Oh, I've been here many times. I don't know how many times. I've been to Nauvoo many times. I've been here many times. We're flying today. I've driven a car. Years ago, I picked up a car in Detroit and traveled the Mormon Trail, putting together a film strip back in those days as we used them, which was used very widely to tell the story, the history of our people. And I've been here. I went on a mission by rail. We used the trains when I went on a mission to England. We didn't go exactly this way, but we came on the Union Pacific, of course, which traversed for 600 miles the old Mormon Trail. I've flown over here many times. To me, it's a thing of absolute miracles. We came here from Burlington, Iowa today, from Nauvoo this afternoon, in 40 minutes. It took the pioneers, when they came out of Nauvoo, to reach this place 131 days, slogging through the mud, wagons down to their axles in deep, sticky, boggy mud, with teams doubled and tripled to get them through. It took longer to come from Nauvoo to Council Bluffs and Winter Quarters than it took to go from here to the Salt Lake Valley. That was 111 days. Now, to think that we came here in 40 minutes. We went this morning to Nauvoo from Salt Lake, left Salt Lake at 8 o'clock this morning, flew to Burlington in 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's hardly believable, but that's the fact. It's wonderful to travel in an airplane. It's a rough, tough, bumpy ride in a springless wagon.
Along that line, President, do you have any desire to set aside that airplane and join these folks on the wagon train for the next 3 months, 111 days?
I'm too old, Dwayne. I think if I were younger, I'd love it, but no, I'm not going to make that trail before. While they're on this trail, I'll be down in New Zealand and Australia and a few other places while they're traveling the route from here to Salt Lake. It's going to be a great thing, and we're going to have a lot of people, and some of them will go all the way, and some of them will go only a part of the way. It's a private undertaking, but one that's of great interest to all of us, and we're happy that they're doing it. Thank you, Dell.
As you visited Nauvoo, Winter Quarters, Wyoming, what's been your feelings?
Well, let me say this. I never go to Nauvoo that I'm not sobered very deeply. I never come here and look at that monument over there that I'm not deeply touched. I never get over it. I think it's ingrained very deeply in me, a respect and love and appreciation for those who 150 years ago moved over this trail. They came from Nauvoo, they traveled through the mud, they built bridges, they established communities at Garden Grove and Mount Pisgah, established farms so that those who came along after them would have something to eat. They came here, they sent the Mormon battalion from this place down to Fort Leavenworth and all the way to San Diego. Another great heroic chapter really in the history of our people. Unique and tremendous and wonderful. Those men nearly died of thirst. They ate wild animals. It was a journey almost without precedent to San Diego. Some of them were mustered out there, and some of them went up to work for John Sutter at Coloma, building a mill there. And the only entry really that shows the date of the discovery of gold in California is found in Henry Bigler's journal, where he comments that today some metal that looks like gold was picked out of the tail race, something to that effect. They pioneered all over the western area. Those who went around the Cape pioneered in Yerba Buena, San Francisco, published a newspaper there, an English language newspaper. It was a tremendous pioneering effort. They pioneered San Bernardino. They were all over the western part of the United States. I stand in respectful and reverent awe of Brigham Young as a leader, knowing what I do of what he accomplished during his term as president of this church. It was a remarkable and wonderful thing which was accomplished. When they got there, when they were here, if they were to eat, they had to grow it. If they were to have clothing, they had to grow it. If they were to have machinery, they had to make it. There was no government subsidy, nothing of that kind. They were independent and made their own way. And we still try to teach that doctrine to our people. Anything else? All of our local congregations across the world, except in very small branches, are presided over by local men. In Japan, this is a Japanese church. In Australia, an Australian church. In Austria, an Austrian church. Sweden, a Swedish church. We have local leaders everywhere. That entails a great leadership training program. And we're going forward with it, and we think we're succeeding in it. We have to take what we have and mold it and build it into leaders who will move forward the work of the church wherever they may be.
President?
Yes.
All the historians in the United States agree that the character of the American people was demonstrated or dictated by their trip west all the way from the East Coast to the Pacific. Would you say that the same thing about our people, that their character developed on the trip west?
Our people, the Mormon people?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it inevitably had a marked effect on the development of their character. They faced new situations, new problems, new challenges that they had to meet constantly. Of course, it molded their character. It had a profound effect on their character, but you must recognize that this was not the first move they'd made. They came from New York to Ohio, from Ohio to Missouri, from Missouri to Illinois, from Illinois to here to Salt Lake, to the Salt Lake Valley. And there was a learning process going on all the time. It built in them a spirit of independence, a spirit of courage, a spirit of forthrightness, a spirit of tremendous hard work, industry. The motto, or rather the logo, if I can use that word, I'm trying to get the word, of the state of Utah shows the honeybee, the beehive, which is a symbol of industry. Of course, it left a mark on them. There isn't any question about it. And it bred something into them of independence and courage, and I think nobility. They helped one another. They didn't live unto themselves alone. They lived to help one another. They couldn't have done it if they hadn't cooperated together. The great pattern of education which they developed in the West was a cooperative effort. They had to work together. And they did so, and they came through. What we see today in the Salt Lake Valley is really what has been constructed on the good and solid and well thought out foundation which they established long ago. Now, may I add to that? Our people believed in according to others the same privilege which they themselves had. They set forth as one of their articles of faith, we believe in worshiping God according to the dictates of our own conscience, and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may. I think that with very few exceptions, we have a fine working relationship with the other churches in the Salt Lake Valley in Utah, and I hope that they respect us. Peggy?
This visitor center is more emphasizing history than some of the other visitor centers. Is this a new direction for visitor centers?
Oh, I don't know. It's a new direction for those who are in charge of these things. I don't know that it's a little more, but the visitor center on Temple Square has many of the same things as this does. This is a little larger, this is newer, this represents the latest that we have, and is very interesting. That wagon in there is a very interesting exhibit, I think. I know the man who made that wagon. I asked him what it cost to make it. He said, oh, about the cost of an automobile today. And that's the way it was. My grandfather was a blacksmith as a young man, just out of his teens, and that was a very valuable trade to know in those days. Nothing was more important than the blacksmith, who knew how to build a wagon and knew how to put shoes on horses. And that was his skill. And when the Civil War broke out, President Lincoln sent a message to Brigham Young to send a group of United States soldiers out to protect the telegraph line in 1861. And he was one of those who went, and he stands on the rolls of the Army in those days as Ira N. Hinckley, farrier. That's the way, that was the trade, farrier. Horseshoe, working with iron, building wagons. They were hard to ride in, though. No springs, bumpity bump bump. Any of you who are planning on a ride, eat well before you go. Put on all the cushion you can. Anything else? Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're honored by your presence. We appreciate very much what you do. I have a great respect for those in the journalism trade and the media. And no, it isn't easy. It's tough. It's difficult. But it's exciting. It's good. Every joy to you. Thank you for coming today. Look around, take your time, and if you're going on the wagons, good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President. Just a couple of things. The plans for the rest of this evening are that there will be a VIP dinner held at the Metropolitan Community College campus.